Hello there everyone, it's Haz here, and today let's talk a bit about starting out in Deadlock and which heroes do I recommend personally to begin with, as I think it can definitely affect the way you enjoy the game, but also how you get into it and learn it, so let's see. First of all, I'd like to start with a couple of heroes that are very popular to recommend by a lot of people and even the game itself, and why I personally think they are not a good choice if you'd like to learn Deadlock. These heroes are some like Seven, Haze, or even Abrams. These three heroes, for instance, are yes, incredibly powerful, very easy to use, and because of that also quite fun. But they also share one very important feature, and it's that on a surface level they are extremely gimmicky. In my opinion, starting out with extremely gimmicky characters can be problematic, as there's a good chance that you can pick up on really bad habits that are specific to those gimmicks and thus neglect other important aspects of the game or even just playing normally, and as a final result, when you switch off from these characters, you might be a beginner player a second time and will have to learn the game a second time again. Keep in mind this is just my opinion based on my experience with players and these games in general. A lot of players get too comfortable with just jumping in with their ultimates or relying too much on survivability or punching with Abrams, which is not how the game is for most other characters and can be very easily a trap. If adjusting away from these gimmicks is not a problem for you specifically, or you just want to have a fun time, of course, feel free to ignore this part. Now instead, the first hero I do recommend is Wraith, who is a carry for those who'd like a standard DPS hero, and I think Wraith is a very balanced and powerful character who just has it all, but isn't herding you into a specific niche playstyle. She looks cool and has everything that a hero should in general to have a balanced experience throughout the game. Now that's important, as some characters are only powerful at the beginning, some in mid-game, and a few only at the very end of your games. And that can be overwhelming to learn as a new player. In fact, I'd say for new players, heroes who are more powerful early game tend to be a better choice in order to avoid dying too much and getting discouraged into mid and end game. So like I said, she is really balanced. Her kit has everything a hero might need. A good one, that's a rechargeable damaging ability. 2 being a teleport you can use for both escaping, so defensive purposes or offensive purposes, as it will give you a bullet shield on level 2 and can be used for chasing other heroes as well. Then you have full auto, your third ability, a fire rate and spirit damage buff that just straight up empowers your weapon shots to insane levels, and later also gives lifesteal. And finally, your ultimate ability, telekinesis, which is a single target stun, good for ganks, focusing down a hero, and also most importantly, shutting down ultimates and gimmicky characters like the ones mentioned earlier. Your ultimate pretty much counters both Haze and Seven by default without defensive items against crowd controlling abilities. So if you'd like a weapon and shooting based powerful hero that's strong and gives you a balanced start to the game, it's Wraith. The next hero for me that I would recommend is Krill. Krill is a bruiser and control type hero that excels at movement, initiating fights, and just being extremely annoying in all honesty. While some rank them as a more advanced character, I personally think they're an excellent beginner choice because their ability toolkit has everything to be useful from the start. They are all very easy to use and will encourage you to focus on some of the most important aspects of learning Deadlock, that's proper movement and farming, and playing with your team. Like I said, Krill excels at being a bruiser type character, so immediately at early game, it requires you to be a little bit more in the face of your opponent to make use of your number 1 ability, Scorn, which heals yourself based on the damage you do around yourself in AoE. This can be a bit tricky to get used to, as it's an aggressive laning strategy and requires you to push the opponent and not let them push you. It also helps a lot here that your weapon is, by the way, a shotgun type weapon that helps denying and confirming troopers compared to most other heroes. But the rest of your toolkit also supports a really safe early laning phase. Burrow, your second ability, which is primarily misused by a lot as a damaging and CC ability. Sure, it's really good for that, but far more important fact about this ability is that while you stay burrowed, you gain 80% bullet resistance and 30% spirit resistance, and also movement speed to help you avoid damage, escape to safety, or just traverse around the map super fast, clearing lanes, the jungle, deliver the urn, or just help ganking. And this increased mobility and insane movement speed for Krill is one of the reasons he's a really good hero. Now if that's not enough, your third ability, Sand Blast, is a powerful 3 to 5 seconds disarm by default that prevents affected heroes from using their weapons at all, which in early game is super powerful, allowing you to get in, do damage, and oppress the enemy without them being able to properly respond by shooting you. Finally, the ultimate ability for the hero, Combo, which is a very common ability type among MOBAs. You basically lock down a single character unable to act while you are continuously damaging them. A very powerful ganking and initiating tool that if you use properly you can win a lot of duels, but more importantly you can lock down enemy heroes from using their ultimates, doing damage, escaping, or anything really, and let your team fight in an advantage. So all in all, Moan Krill in my opinion is a very forgiving bruiser type character that has a very high survivability and a toolkit that's useful by default even if you are behind in the game, allowing you to be very present on the map, practice proper movement, farming, and working together with your team while still allowing you to have more room for mistakes. Finally, the third character I would recommend starting out with is Dynamo, another top tier choice used in most high elo games and for a very good reason. Dynamo can actually be built in multiple ways. You can be a support and a bruiser type hero if you'd like, but you can also very easily build Dynamo to be a weapon-based carry, doing tons of damage. What makes him a great early pick immediately is that you possess an AoE healing ability for Dynamo that helps you sustain yourself in your lane and prevent you from dying. It's quite a big advantage if you build for it, and that's a good supporting ability for new players who tend to make lots of mistakes at the start. This allows you to stay on your lane longer. Now, like I said, if you'd like to build Dynamo more as a weapon-based character, their second ability is something you want to make sure you play around with, as Quantum Entanglement increases your fire rate bonus up to 50% even, while also reloading your gun, allowing you to shred opponents early on if you match it with good accuracy. Keep in mind this ability is also extremely good for avoiding certain timed abilities, like let's say Bebop's Explosion, as you can just disappear at the time it would explode, negating the damage completely. Moving on, the other two abilities that raise Dynamo to a top tier hero is their first, Kinetic Pulse, which knocks enemies in the air, damaging them, a great initiating ability that also happens to boost your weapon damage against the affected targets by 30%, once again boosting your carry potential, and this ability can have multiple charges on top of that. Finally, your key ability, your ultimate Singularity, which is a black hole type area CC, sucking all enemies nearby towards Dynamo, damaging them and completely shutting them down from being able to act or do anything. The signature teamfight ability that if used properly can turn around almost any game or situation, allowing your team to just annihilate the opponent that's unable to do anything unless they build the proper counters for it. This is the ability Dynamo is banned for in competitive games now already. It's extremely powerful, and while similarly gimmicky to 7 and Haze from the beginning that I mentioned, it's more of a supportive ultimate, and instead of relying on yourself too much, will encourage you to work together with your team instead. So, why Dynamo? He's one of the most valuable teammates to have in the game, and as such, a good practice character to work together with your team, and next to that also has great self-sustain through his healing, while still having a chance to build him as a carry if your team lacks a good carry player, giving you a well-rounded character that you can adjust to the game you're currently having. So those are my recommended heroes everyone for starting out in Deadlock. Keep in mind, this is just my personal opinion, which most likely also reflects my playstyle, so by no means is it a definitive list of good starting characters. In fact, if you have a different opinion, please do share it in the comments below. But I think these are characters you will have a great time getting into Deadlock. With that said, that is today's Deadlock video. Hope it was helpful and you enjoyed it. If so, please check out the rest of the channel or even subscribe to get notified of future content for the game. Thank you for watching, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all the next time.